Illuminati? No, that's the gangsters of Tupac Shakur Illuminati.
You think Tupac was in the jam band Illuminati?
Yeah, the Illuminati was something that he sings about in his songs.
Yeah.
About how that's supposed to be some kind of mafia, underground mafia or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so I think my theory is that the jam band Illuminati, what they do is do you know what jam bands are?
No.
Have you ever heard of like Fish or Goose or bands like that, like
No.
Fish or Grateful Dead?
Grateful Dead, yeah.
You've heard of the Grateful Dead, yeah.
I'd love to hear his music. I could charge my headphones. Okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So my theory is that there's a jam band Illuminati that only allows certain jam bands to succeed in this world, such bands like the Grateful Dead and Fish, even though there's other bands out there that are deserving. What do you think?
Wait a minute. Yeah, are you trying to tell me there's an organization that only allows so many bands to be successful?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. What do you think about that?
That's impossible, because I know a friend of mine who started Def Jam, and he sold his company for I don't know, I think a couple $100 million. His name is Leor Cohen. He now owns a label called 3.
wook+live. Welcome to wook+live. We have a great show for you. Man, I think that was our jump the shark moment, is the street interviews.
No, I love that. That was so good. And that was you picked the one that I really liked the best too. That guy has like the best.
Yeah,
like,
that was
picture him. I'd love to know what he actually looked like, because in my head I have this great visual of that guy missing some teeth and like the stained nicotine beard and like you know.
Kind of reminds me of like probably Kev's roommate from like '83. Like they went off on their own.
Breaking Bad. He was Breaking Bad.
Totally.
I didn't actually hear the end of that until we played it live, because I was kind of pulling it all together. I was like, and Chad's our road warrior now. As I think everybody knows, he's out there on this trek across America trying to uncover some answers and doing different street bits. So hopefully we'll get more from him.
You know, there's a movie that addresses the jam band Illuminati. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. It's called Josie and the Pussycats.
How many people are you going to get to watch Josie and the Pussycats for the first time just to find out about the jam band? And they're going to get to the credits. You're going to be like, "Damn you, Kevin!" So we got a fun day. I'm gonna get through a couple of quick things. We're gonna bring back word of the day.
Oh no!
The word of the day is pod. And if you don't remember, if you're new to the show, when you hear the word of the day, you drink, you yell, you scream, you cheer, kind of Pee Wee Herman, maybe have a hit, eat something. Wooing is acceptable here. You celebrate. The word of the day is pod. Also, next week, we're going to have a gauntlet, a battle royale, a competition of sorts. And these three gentlemen here are going to be going head to head with your help. So starting immediately after this show, they are allowed to start recruiting, and they each can recruit 2 people. Come a week from now, we will go head to head in a game night, and the winner will get badass bragging rights, and their team will get some merch. I'm not going to send you guys any more merch.
I like it. It's like Highlander style. There can be only one.
There can only be
going down, boys. You're going down.
I watched Highlander the other night.
The original?
Yes, I watched the original the other night because I watched so many disappointing Oscar-worthy movies.
Did you guys ever see Outlander? I know that's more of like a lady show or a couple show.
The TV show? Yeah. I watched the first couple seasons of it before I fell off. But yeah, I watched it.
To stop though because of the rape. Like it's just one of those shows that's like every 5 minutes it was more rape, and you're like, I can't watch this.
Good enough. My God.
All right. Anyway, let's keep things moving. We have Brian Brinkman on tonight. He is one of the co-hosts. I'm going to talk to him about Undermine because he hosts a segment of it with Dave, but then there's 3 different segments. One that's hosted by Tom, one that's RJ in the original Helping Friendly group, and then the artists formerly known as Beyond the Pond are now, I guess, the third leg of the stool. So anyway, we'll talk to him about that. Also, producer for From the Vault. Was that 36 From the Vault? We had who's that? Steve Hayden. So we've had him on. So we'll talk about that. We got a lot of things. Before we do that,
Steve Hayden, the guy who was voting for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he was tweeting about today.
Yeah. He said this was his first year getting a vote for it, I think. Is that what he said?
Did everybody read the article? Did everybody touch on the article?
A little bit, yeah.
He went Tina Turner, not New York Dolls. That's all I'm going to say.
And you have a problem with that, Kev?
I do have a problem with that. But
you should write a response and post it on the blog.
Oh, I subtweeted him today, but that's a whole other story.
It's a whole other story. Don't get him started.
Careful now. You guys are on the same Osiris team.
Oh,
get HR involved.
You know, like my mama always said, fuck them if they can't take a joke, you know? It's all in fun. I mean, Tina Turner, I guess. My whole thing is she was in there with Ike already. So that might be pre-rock and roll. But what's love got to do with it? Is that a rock and roll song?
Yeah, that song rocks.
Well, I mean, I can see your point because she is in there with, but I mean,
what are you guys talking about?
Like getting the Tina Turner vote over the New York Dolls vote for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Tina Turner's already in the Hall of Fame as Ike and Tina Turner. So Kev's upset that Steve Hayden voted for. He wrote an article today explaining sort of like this is his first year voting for Rock Hall of Fame artists, and he wrote an article explaining sort of how he went about it and who he voted for.
Wow.
So Kev was saying that he is against his Tina Turner over the New York Dolls vote. Because
I'm not going to give you a take on that.
Okay, I was waiting for it. I was wondering if you were going to.
I decided to abstain.
I thought you were thinking about it, and you're like, no, I'm not going to say that now.
No, I'm not. Llama, what have you been up to? I heard you were trying to get something going. What was that about? Starting like a new club or something?
Oh, so yeah, curling is it's a pretty fun sport, and I want to start a curling club, but I can't think of a slogan. There's got to be a better way.
I'm the salt and the slogan, Kevin Hogan with Hogan Slogans. You're starting a curling team and you need a slogan? I got a slogan for you. Surrender to the throw. We got boxes of slogans.
If you need a slogan, you need it right now. Come on down to Hogan Slogans. We're open till 9.
Want to become a better stoner? Come, join us at Bouncing Around the Broom. If you want to improve your curling, the trick is to surrender to the throw.
Well, that is about the extent of our curling content for the year.
I don't know. There's East Coast Emo got your back there, and she wants to know if there's lessons.
There we go.
And I feel like if we ever all visit Llama, I definitely would like to go for curling.
Next time Llama has an idea, though, and he's like, oh, I'll just set it up live, I'm going to be like, let's pre-record it. I was like, I want to get to Brian, but I don't know how to push you into getting Llama. All right,
Can I send a shout out to wook+live /merch?
You don't have to say
you need
backslash.
Yourself. Well,
I'm
a boomer.
If you're a boomer, you do.
Yeah, if you're a boomer, you do.
And you too can get yourself one of those smancy Hogan's slogans t-shirts, just like you just saw on national TV.
Kev's like, you got to go to https:// wookplus.com backslash merch.
Oh, man.
All right, let's keep this moving. Let's bring Brian in. Hey, Brian.
Hey, there he is.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you? How'd that first 10 minutes go? Did you expect any of this? It's kind of a random.
I'm getting in touch with our sales rep at Osiris because I think we need Hogan's slogans as a as an advertiser on the pods. That was fantastic. Throwing in like the Throwing Stones background music was great as well.
Yeah, I wanted to give that subtle nod with the Throwing Stones. That was awesome.
It's a subtle nod to the bracket. I love it.
Yeah, we you know what? I don't want to start there, but we're into round 2, just went live, and I do want to get your takes on some of it later because it's just good fodder. But I really, the big news since the last time I spoke with you is you just wrapped season 1 of Undermine, and very well done. Kind of.
Thank you.
It's weird because I don't want to say it's revolutionary because it also like made perfect sense. Like it almost seemed like it was supposed to be like that from the beginning, but at the same time, nobody had really put those pieces together. What was that like? Who instigated that or brought that up? Did that come from you guys, or was that RJ or Tom or?
So we were talking. This all started like so many kind of creative endeavors that people have gone through over the last 10 months. It really started as a result of the pandemic. We were starting to have discussions at the network about what we were going to do, how we were going to really continue moving forward. And one of the things that we were realizing was we were getting to a point where these 3 fish podcasts, Under the Scales, Beyond the Pond, which I hosted, and Helping Friendly Podcast, had not necessarily run their course, but there was, an aspect of kind of redundancy that was coming in, and there was an aspect of like, what else do we do with these shows at this point in time? Do we have another challenge? Is there another peak that we can climb with all this? And we got to talking about, why don't we try to do something unified? And so last fall, we were coming up on the 20th anniversary of the first hiatus. We said, okay, let's see if all 3 shows combine for the month of October. We do what we do best, but we combine in a way that allows us the opportunity to tell kind of a cohesive story. As we were planning it, we were like, wow, we're getting close to the 25th anniversary of the December 95 run. A lot of people cover December 95. It's a pretty popular month in fish history. What if we talked about November to see kind of what happened right before the peak? And Tom had gotten an interview at that point with Brad Sands. That all kind of came together. We kind of realized then we had something going. And around September, October, we started getting pretty serious about what are our next steps? How do we figure out a way to unify as 3 pods into one? We were kind of testing it out with these 2 months, and we just decided if we're going to try this, if we're going to do this, the best way to do it is to start from the beginning and really dive into the 80s. I've always enjoyed a handful of 80s shows. I've always enjoyed the kind of early years for fish, but I'd never gone through and listened like the way I listened to, fall 94, fall 97, 2.0 tours, like in full, really hearing like show by show what is happening and what is evolving for the band. So we really wanted to do that. And that was kind of the impetus for it.
Yeah. And you're right. It's kind of like everyone's familiar with the origins and the start, but I hadn't seen a comprehensive collection of like the history and analysis of the music and the culture and how it all worked together, right? Because that's what I like about it too, is it's not just looking at, the history, telling the history of fish and like how they came together. And it's not just looking at the music and the venues, right? Because you have that but then also the bigger picture, what was going on the geopolitical landscape and culturally and other music, and that comprehensive picture is really interesting. Are you guys going to keep it going? I'm assuming you go into like the next phase. I guess is season 2 going to be chronological, or is it more freeform?
So,
or you're not allowed to announce? Is Tom?
Well, no, I can
Tom
say
debuted Epitaph
always
on our
trying
channel.
to get that info. Always give me something no one knows.
I can give a little bit away because it's still in production, like in pre-production right now, but we're starting to do interviews. And we have an idea of what the larger season is going to look like from a structural standpoint, but
I just want to interrupt you for a second to let these guys know about these phases of pre-production and pre-production and how you can like plan things out. And our pre-production ends at like 7:00 Eastern before the show.
Yes.
We're like, produce, get shit out. So we can follow that model.
We like to fake that we have production meetings, but it's more like just get it all done and see what we can get done. Like, we don't have any sort of structure.
We need the role model though,
and there is a champion on the team of doing shit early. Just so you know.
And we give you such a hard time for it. You're like, all right, I'm gonna do that. Like, dude, it's only Wednesday. Like, chill out.
I will admit to being neurotic about this stuff and really trying to like herd as many people together towards one larger goal. So I blame myself in that way, but I also I'll give a huge shout out. I mean, working with RJB, he is one of the most organized but calmly organized people I've ever met in my entire life. And working with him, you really have a real clear sense of like, what are our goals? What is the next step? Where do we need to be 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, tomorrow type of thing. So I've tried to piece a little bit of that away. I know that producing my own podcast or pod, I should say, for the fans out there, both count. So I did it twice. There is just, we were better on Beyond the Pond when we were organized about what we're doing 6-7 episodes down the road. And we knew that this show was going to be less freeform. And so we were going to have to really come with that kind of approach times 2. But season 2, so what I can say is, no, we are not going chronologically.
Okay, that's big. Because that's my first assumption.
That's good. I love that.
And that's intentional. We had a lot of discussions as we were getting into season 1 where we were like, if we just go 1990 and 1991, 92 and 93, so on and so forth, it's gonna kind of get boring. Like you said, everyone knows the story. If we tell it just step by step by step, I don't think that we do it justice. What we want to do with this show is really approach Fish's career from a larger thematic standpoint. So we feel like we've set the foundation with the early years. What we want to do next is, and we announced this at the end of episode 10, so I can say this. We want to talk about the community as a whole. The community has evolved over the last, I would say, picking up in the early 90s. So over the last 30 years in a really unique way, in the sense that it's been both parallel to American culture and kind of a countercultural type of standpoint, but also really embedded in the development of the internet, in, debates around
the change of taping.
Yeah, I was just going to say taping. Yeah, and live 100%. Fishing itself, like the ease of getting to watch and listen to the shows is a huge thing. Like that's
totally. Yeah, I mean, the band's been at like the forefront of digital media. The band's been at the forefront of.
Are you going to have Brad from Nugs one, because he seems like a pivotal figure back in the early 2000s?
Without saying yes or no, I will just say we have an interview.
Nice. There I go trying to get more information.
You're on Team Osiris, though. You gotta protect, you can't let that out.
Yeah, we're gonna be asking you these questions, Kev, because you'll know these things before us. So
there you go. But just taping, for me, even just taping when Nugs started and all of that, I can remember him when they first did Nugs, and you had to upload a certain amount in order to be even so you could download other stuff. They made they made the ratios right on that. And just, I thought that was so brilliant. And then sometimes I'm not as happy now.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't think all the fuck Brad things are actually Brad's fault. But I just want to say that for the record. Like, it's a joke that has their own legs, but I don't think the fuck Brad thing is, you know what I mean? It's like,
right. You
He's not
can't get
quite like Ticketmaster level of like, fuck Ticketmaster, like quite there, but it's still like
Right, but I don't even think he made any of those decisions. I think it's like coming from
yeah,
Red Light
from
and
above him. He
Fish
just
Corp.
enforces it, right?
Yeah.
He's
that's
more of
not
like
where I
cop
was
that has to
going.
do
It's
it.
just that's not even where I was going. I was going with the vault aspect of it. I don't know how that works, but it seems to me like Nugs has as much control over Fish as the vault exists of, that kind of thing.
I mean, it's interesting you talk about the taping because I was first introduced to Fish 20 years ago this summer. It was a very common story. I was a counselor at a summer camp. I was wearing a Dave Matthews, like the Dancing Nancy shirt. And someone came up to me and said verbatim, "You like Dave Matthews Band? I think you'll probably I think you should listen to Fish." And it was presented not as like, you're going to enjoy this band. It was kind of like, okay, I see where you are in step 1. Let's go to step 3. And
it's a 12-step program.
Yeah. it was a tape of 11/17/1994 set 1, which is not really notable other than the fact that, like, for me, that's my first show I ever heard. They open with Helter Skelter. They play a really good Divided Sky. There's a great Colonel Forbin's Into Vibrational Life. I could probably play the show in my head over and over again type of thing. But I got that tape, and then I got a few other tapes, and then I was getting like burned CDs. But 3 months later, Live Fish came out, and the Live Fish CDs were coming out. And so I was getting soundboard quality shows, like full complete shows. And then, 15 months after that, Fish comes back to 2.0 and Live Fish debuts. And at that point, you can't stream anything. You have to buy, actually, like physically buy. But like every step of the way,
website to go to download it.
Yeah, right. And then you could like burn it onto the CD and put like the tape like logo on it. But like every step of the way, like I saw the very, very end of taping culture and blanks and postage. And within 2 years, you were getting called out by people who'd been doing this for 10 years for the fact that we could listen to every single show in real time.
But I jumped on that shit. I was like, fucking, I've been asking for this for 10 years. What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. Like I use the Live Fish app now, or the Relisten app probably most, because I can listen to everything. Just one show after another. It's so easy.
They have 3,000 Radiator shows on Relisten, just so you know.
And that's saying something though, right there. I mean, seriously, like something like that. Like it's crazy what you can listen to on there and find just right at your fingertips at all times, compared to like having to hunt down a tape or find a tape or trade a tape or go through the mail. Right. Like it's crazy.
I still like the curated shows though. Like I'll listen to like re-listen when I want to give it thought and listen to a specific era or show or period. But like Jemp, I go to a lot on Alexa just because that's when I'm like doing dishes or working, and I'm not really wanting to be 100% focused on it. I just want somebody to curate where I know they're going to have good jams. So there's a balance to it. But the point is 24 hours a day, you could get any Fish you want. Like there's no limit pretty much, except for the things that Shapiro hasn't released yet, but the majority of the catalog you can hear
baked,
anytime
fried,
you want.
Sauteed, baked, fried, deep fried, any kind of fish you want.
And that aspect is something that we want to explore. Like we have a writer who's working on the show with us who he's like 24, 25, I want to say. And his dad went to Fish shows in the 90s, and his perspective is totally different from mine, which is totally different from the people we were interviewing for season 1 who saw Fish when they were a bar band. And that journey from the late 80s, early 90s up to today, and what it's like to experience Fish in this decade and in the previous decade that have been, seen such advancements in technological communications, but also we all think of the 90s as kind of this politically vanilla era where life was good for a lot of people seeing Fish. There was a lot of disposable income for this very specific section of the population who wanted escapism, wanted to relive life from the 60s, from the early 70s. And now a lot of that's changed, but fish is still this constant presence, even though the community has changed and evolved and shifted. And so we want to kind of explore that in some ways.
That seems really interesting. I think that's a really good structure and form work for season. When you guys get to the part of the cultural exploration where fish fans start a YouTube channel and do fictional bits during an interview
Because
show,
of a pandemic.
I know some people that could offer some insight on what that's like.
Well, the entire series is going to peak with, it's going to get very meta, and we're just going to, it's going to be a bracket of us bracketing off each of our episodes.
Thank you.
When we did the bracket, that's when I was like, that was, speaking of jumping the shark, that was like, all right, maybe I should stop.
I remember when you did that, I was like, Jesus, man, this is, it's grown into something so much bigger than yourself. Because when did you start this? Like 2018?
17 was the first. But if you look at the first bracket, it did it in Excel. Like it was literally like, it looks like the .NET brackets where it's just like these lines and like a poorly seeded 64 songs or whatever. And then now you look to what they look like now, it's like unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Actually, I should say while you're here, I was looking back.
Yeah.
The brackets are actually how I first started. We started interacting.
Yeah.
The 2.0 bracket, right?
Well, there was a couple of them. He helped with the 3.0 and 2.0 seeding. But in between, he also, and so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think we're going to post it on the Wook blog, the series. You wrote, I forget how many, was it 16 or 8 for the tour bracket? You summarized.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
You wrote a summary and a breakdown for each tour. We called it the tour guide, the Weekend Wook, Brian, or Suffering Juke tour guide. And it was, I was reading some back in preparation for this. There was some really well written, concise takes on some really big moments in fish history. And I was like, I have since taken that site down, but now that we have Wook+, I want to reshare them.
We got to put
them out there.
Back up. We got to put that back up.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, Brian's a great writer, and it was fun. So yeah, we've worked together on three of the brackets so far.
Well, you combine two things that I love, and I've gotten a lot of crap for combining these two things, but when I saw your brackets, I was like, all right, this guy gets it. I'm a diehard sports fan. I'm a huge baseball, basketball fan, but I will follow everything. And I'm a huge music fan, a huge fish fan. And I've always felt that fish is, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can interpret fish. I don't want to tell anyone's story, but for me, the thing that was the biggest draw for fish was the musical aspect. Was I could hear everything that I'd ever wanted to hear from a classic rock and even jazz standpoint. But then the statistics of it. And have you heard this show? Why is this show good? They played these songs and they hadn't played these songs since this date. They'd never segued this song into this song, so on and so forth. This tour is compiled of this. Like, it was to me like going through baseball seasons and understanding like what a baseball game, you know, why it's so special and why it's so unique, even if essentially the same things happen that happened in a baseball game 2 weeks ago. You get that feeling with fish.
Sometimes you'll get like whole seasons, tours where somebody's an MVP, and then you don't see them for 2 or 3 tours being the MVP again.
Right.
I love that.
And that up and down. I mean, I think about like just recent memory. Like my favorite tour of 3.0 is summer 2015.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say, then you get years like 2015, which are like that year that you go undefeated and your team wins the cup, and you're like, this is the greatest year ever. Like, yes. And then the next
every
year,
show, you're just like, how did we win that game? How was that show so good? Type of thing. But then you get the follow-up year, 2016 is like really uneven, and you hear the band like kind of struggling to evolve because Fish will never play a peak tour and then be like, cool, this is where we've evolved to. They're always looking for something else.
And then like 17 was like when the owner was like, we need new uniforms and we're going to get a gimmick dog. And they do the Baker's Dozen. They're like, we got to save this franchise.
Right,
so we're going to do 13 shows and they blow it out of the water. And sure enough, the gimmick works and everybody.
It works. Good. Yeah.
Can I drill you down on that?
Yeah.
What about
me or Brian?
What about Brian? What about 97 or you two? What about 97 to 99? It seems like they kept not necessarily upping it, but they would plateau up a little, keep plateauing. It never went down.
Yeah, I think about that in the sense that I'm not a Yankees fan, but I came of age watching a lot of baseball when the Yankees were really good. And if you think about the Yankees from 99 or 98 to '01, basically, that 4-year stretch, like 98, they won, I think, 114 games, but in baseball, you still lose 50, 60 games no matter how good your season is. So yeah, I mean, like that, if you started listening to shows from, I think, 213, 214, 97 is the start of the 97 calendar year for Fish, all the way to Big Cypress, you're going to hear some dips, but like on the whole, to your point, you're going to get like 3 or 4 shows in a row that are just like near perfection.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're ever going to get back. I mean, obviously not get to that level, but even the consistent growth. 19 and 20 were really inconsistent, right before this, and now with this break, I have no idea what we're going to get out of it. I don't care. I'm not going to be hypercritical. I mean, I care, but like, I know some people are like, oh, very hard on it. I think any excuse to gather and listen to that music live again is obviously fully welcome, but there is that thought that, like, man, when it's in between tours, right, and they come back and how rusty they are and shit. Now it's like this is the longest they've been apart since before 2.0.
That would be rusty, right?
And on top of that, you know, I think all of them have released a new album, and the band released a new album since then. So we got a ton of new music to get through and hear and stuff before, you know. So there's going to be all of that included in everything.
And they're going to be playing Sigma Oasis every night.
Every night,
like
yeah, exactly. And you know, new Trey stuff and new Page
Numberline
stuff.
all over.
There's not going to be any of that Page stuff unless they do an ambient set at like 3 in the morning.
We're going to get some drum space in 4.0, Kev. We're going into drum space.
It's going to be like drums in space. It'll be in the middle of the second set.
So I don't know where you guys fall on this. I thought the Ghost of the Forest album was one of the more fascinating releases in all of like Fish history. I'm getting a face, and so let's dive into this. I love the vulnerability. I love the I love the atmospheric sounds. I love the way it was produced. I love the tour and like the fact that you could, like, for the first time ever, I felt like you could hear a Fish show as a normal concert, where this is what we are presenting to you as a stage show that you never hear from Fish or Trey. I thought that really bled into 2019, and your point about all these new songs. If you think back to early 2019, we were basically coming off of a 3-year period where Big Boat songs were debuted in 2016. And then they never really caught their stride in 2017 because the Baker's Dozen dominated and everything basically got played once or twice in the year. Yeah. 2018, we then got Casvote Voxed. 2019, we get Ghost of the Forest. 2020, we get Sigma Oasis. Like over a 3 or 4 year time period, they wrote like 40 new songs.
That's a lot.
And we're trying to play them.
And only a handful of them had the opportunity to ruminate and grow legs. Everything Right stands out as one that they played a lot and really got in it. You know, there's a couple, but you're right. There's a lot of songs off of Big Boat that never, I think, got fully explored.
I like the new song.
Look at Casbot. I mean, that wasn't even planned. That was all made up and done for Halloween. So that kind of came out of nowhere and was like, oh, hey, let's just boom, drop this one. You know, so I mean, that's even crazier. So yeah.
Well, and the band's in a really interesting place in that sense, where they've basically, if you think about them from just a catalog standpoint, they've kind of reinvented themselves. And a lot of these songs deal with, you know, issues of aging and people that they love dying and perspectives that
and planets changed. And souls
and planets and souls. Yes. We have to always. There's always a...
Can I just say about Ghost of the Forest?
Yeah.
My issue is if I looked at those lyrics, somebody sent them to me and said, Kevin, you understand poetry. Look at these lyrics. I'd say it was a 10th grader in high school who wrote them, who was very upset about something, and they were grasping onto something, but they needed someone to push.
Pretentious thing you've ever said.
No. They needed someone to push them to the next level. The lyric itself.
I don't know if I would necessarily disagree. I think what I would say is I've really come to peace with there's an earnestness to Trey that I don't ever want to lose.
I'm
And
with
there's
you.
an
Yeah, I hear you.
enthusiasm to him that's just like at some points it's very surface level in
Let's
terms of the
fucking
way
do
he
it, man.
speaks.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Like he gets an idea and he runs with it. And I don't mean that as like a negative. I feel like I've accepted that. And I thought when I was listening to that record that was as like close to his heart. Obviously his friend died. He wrote as close to his heart. He wrote
I don't want to discount it. I'm not discounting what he did. I'm just
a little bit. I mean,
I thought
sophomore.
It could have been a Dark Side of the Moon. It could have been a Dark Side of the Moon. Right now, it's a saucer full of secrets.
Yeah, right. And that was with time. Does it age better with time? You don't know. But like Kevin and I rarely, and I've noticed this as we've gone on, especially in the brackets, rarely agree on the same songs. Like we like the same band, like we both love the Dead, but we're very, very different in how we approach songs. But this is the first time I've actually really agreed with him on something like that, because I totally agree with you on the Ghost of the Forest take. Like I feel like I'm in the minority with a lot of that, but I agree. It's hard a lot of times to say that and to give your honest opinion when it's not good, because you get such backlash from the fans.
You remember what happened with Fam and Gumbo?
Yes, exactly. And I mean,
the infamous Gumbo
jokingly funny, like, but yes, it's true. And to that point, it's true. Like you get bombarded for a take and you're like, oh shit, I'm sorry for having an opinion, but it's, how I feel. And, they're not always right or they're not always true, but it's, what it is. So
it's interesting the way you put that, because that's not to circle it back to Undermine, but that's something that we're looking to explore in season 2. This idea that like, I don't know, I don't want to know how many hours I've spent on internet related forums dedicated to Fish. I don't ever want to see that calculated. But I've spent a lot, and there's something so interesting about the 5 of us here all love this same band. I'm sure, and I think we're having a hearty discussion about things that we may disagree on, but I'm sure that in another world we could all be behind a computer, like cursing each other around and insulting each other for opinions. And that's such a weird thing that like we're essentially talking about the same thing we all love deeply. And you having an opinion that disagrees with my opinion doesn't do anything to either one of our opinions. It's just, it is what it is. And that spectrum of like, I like this about the band versus I like this is like one of the things I find fascinating, but it endlessly leads to battles,
discussions and debates and opinions and things like that. And
I want to be clear on what Brian's opinion is, though. So to put it in terms I can understand, we have a 4-team bracket, and I'm going to just go with the last 4 studio releases or studio recordings, including Ghost of Forest and Cosva Box.
Are you asking him to rank?
I just want to know who wins. I just want to know the top out of. Well, yeah, no, actually the rank. I think the 4 out of Big Boat, Cosva, Ghost of Forest, and then Sigma Oasis. How do those 4, like the last 4 big releases of the band, stack up against each other to you?
I think I would put 1A and 1B, Sigma and Casvote. I love both of those. I think Sigma might be my personal favorite Fish record ever is Round Room. But I think that's a different story. I love that record.
So many things to get into.
Sigma Oasis, I think, is probably their best album since Story of the Ghost, Farmhouse, maybe Billy Breathes. Even it's a monumental achievement. Casual Voxed, I love the inspiration there. Ghost of the Forest would be after that. Big Boat would be on its own island, far away from that entire list. I don't know if I could put into words how much I hated the entirety of Big Boat, and
every single song.
2 songs stand out. The Page tune that sounds like a new wave throwback to the 80s.
I love that song.
And Pertrictor or whatever.
Petriture?
Well, there it is. There's this word of the day.
The studio version that, it reminds me
we have a new drop for the show. Petriture.
Bob Ezrine is made for the studio, and he took that composition and made it into modern day Peter Gabriel Genesis. The song on the album is
Yeah.
that, but live, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear even bouncing around the room or
so
something.
hard live. And I did that whole fall tour right after, because I think that came out like
Yeah.
October 16, like the
Yeah.
beginning, and then they did the tour through the Southeast. So that was, I don't typically get to do whole tours, but that was one of the ones where we actually went, and they played this album like constantly. They Petra was in the opening night of that tour,
I think
and
it
then
opened the entire tour.
yeah, and then we went to New Year's that year to close it all out. And it was Petra. You're like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Consequently,
the
that was the
umbrellas.
last full tour. Well,
The umbrellas were cool. The umbrellas were cool.
The umbrellas were beautiful. I guess I just found I found Fuego and Big Boat to just be really sterile, and I get
Bob Ezrin.
yeah, like they wanted to go into a studio with this historic producer and make an album, but like,
and it sounded like bad Pink Floyd.
Yes, and like I think Beneath the Sea of Stars, the closing track on Ghost of the Forest, that's such a studio achievement for Fish, or for Fish related projects. To me, the thing that just bored me to death about Fuego and Big Boat was this isn't who you are. Like the whole thing that makes Fish special is you walk on stage and you create something that has never been made before. Yeah, you play a bunch of songs, but like at some point there's a moment where everything opens up and everyone in the room is experiencing something that's never happened before. I was like, why can't you capture that in a studio? Like, why are we?
And
just
they've captured it in the studio many times, just not recently until Sigma. It's really interesting. While you were saying that, the thought that popped in my head was how many times I've told people I'm introducing the Fish not to listen to Fuego or Big Boat. It's like, it's one thing if you know Fish and you've seen them and you've gone to shows and you get it, but if it's your first introduction, it's almost like you're embarrassed, right? It's like your brother did something that's a little uncomfortable and you don't want everybody to know it. You don't bring it up. You're like, don't pay attention to this one.
Yeah.
Look at this stuff. And I think that's an indication that it's not a great album if you're embarrassed to show people it.
Brian, what do you make of The Line? Because I've been standing for The Line since it came out and people crush that shit.
So it's amazing that we're in agreement on this after this entire discussion. I think I'm of the minority. I think the wingsuit set is one of the most like risky and like courageous things they've ever done. I think that it might have fallen flat on Halloween. I get the reasons why. When they played The Line, I was like, oh my God, you guys are actually telling a like indie rock story in a song here. And then the back half of it, you guys were talking about Stephen Hayden before I came on. He wrote an article. This was back in 2013. He was working for Grantland at the time, and he had written an article titled "Is Fish a Great Band?" And it was my introduction to reading him, and we've since become friends and worked together. But he wrote after the wingsuit set that the back half of The Line reminded him of this song by a band I love called Deer Hunter, their song Desire Lines, which builds into this like melodic wall of sound kind of coda jam to it. And The Line has that. So every time I hear The Line, I'm like, okay, I get it. The crowd is groaning, but we're getting to that coda jam where like Trey is just going to do these trills and it's going to build and build. It's going to be beautiful. And I'm going to be super into it. So yeah, I'm in full agreement with you there.
And there we go again with like the opinions and what you like and what you don't like. And I mean, here we go again. Like I'm of the opinion, I actually like that song too. Like I don't hate it. Like I don't hate it like everyone else does. I and I never understood the hate for it. Like I'm like, why?
Everyone likes The Line. They just don't say it.
And I'm sorry. If you
I think it's funny to hate The Line.
But if you get into Ghost of the Forest and respect like Trey's writing on that and the death of his friend and all that stuff, why can't you get into the writing on The Line? Because it's that true story. It's like based on the guy. I mean, it's the same kind of writing.
You know what? My problem is I spent 4 years in college studying poetry. And so I know too much. I'm an asswipe. I know too much about it.
Well, the only thing cooler would have been if you'd spent that time being a songwriter. Then you could really talk shit.
I'm seeing love in the chat for Waiting All Night, which I love as well.
Yeah, and Waiting All Night and Wingsuit. I mean, I've actually grown to love that album a lot more lately than I did originally.
It never
Brian,
fucks.
Always.
It should. It should.
the timing of this, I want to pivot, and I think it'll
Yeah.
be a good opportunity. We have a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have like 10, 15 minutes. I want to talk about your more recent projects. You have this Atonal Fish podcast. You have some things coming up. How things are going with the vault, or what is it? 36 from the vault.
Yeah.
And whatever you want to get into, but I think this would be a good time to take this break, and we'll be back in a sec.
Summer means seeing live music, camping on a muddy parking lot, sharing joints, partners, and bottles of whiskey with no sleep. Summer also means a higher likelihood of contracting the dreaded wook flu. Symptoms of after effect this crappy feeling, more commonly known as the wook flu, include sore throat, loss of serotonin, ringworm, and constipation. So as summer approaches and tour becomes a reality, remember the wook flu still exists, and now is the time for Washufizi. With a combination of 27 herbs and roots harvested from the Peruvian rainforest, Washufizi gives you the confidence to carelessly enjoy tour.
Side effects of Washufizi include becoming responsible, getting a haircut, cleaning up, exercise, folding laundry, budgeting, morning jogs, deodorant use, flossing, job hunting, a taste for kale, paying bills, and proper oral hygiene.
Call your doctor and see if Washufizi is right for you.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I just I wanted a clean pivot to keep us on point.
Get yourself some, right? Get yourself
you
some.
gotta-
Everybody
we
call up
gotta-
and
we gotta
get
give
a
the
shot, man.
sponsors
Get
love.
that shot.
Getting that pharmaceutical money coming in. Washufizi.
Hey, that merch money doesn't pay for everything.
Right. Yeah.
That again, that is https://wookplus.com/merch. Get all your Wook Plus merch there.
Oh man.
Okay,
So,
so the ravine. This is an exploration of atonal fish. What else? Is this is a new one, right? This is recent?
So I launched this last June, and I try to keep this one slightly on the down low intentionally. I don't really go heavy on promotion for it. Essentially, like the inspiration for it. I was listening to this podcast by a music writer called Range and Basin, and the show features a lot of atmospheric music, a lot of like extended jams, kind of weird jazz inspired music and whatnot. And the host will read passages from books and whatnot. And it feels like a radio show that you would find when you're driving through Wyoming at 3:00 in the morning on a road trip, and you're just kind of flipping around radio station.
Yeah, we have
and
somebody in Rock
something-
Springs, Wyoming right now.
It's so funny. We actually had somebody in Wyoming today.
You're
on
the
a
best,
radio-
Brian. You nailed that shit. You didn't
Nowhere
know
in Wyoming.
And you're just like, so I went to college in Montana, and I grew up in Chicago, and I used to do this. It's a 24-hour drive on the nose from Chicago to Missoula, Montana, and I'd find myself, this is in the days before Spotify and whatnot. My iPod would burn out, and I would just like have the radio station on, and you'd just turn the dial, and something random would show up, and you just would be there for like 2 hours. You didn't care what you were hearing. You didn't care about the artist. The host would come in and out. It'd be all staticky.
You get the hog report in between songs.
Yes. And so I was like, all these kind of things started trickling in my head, and I had a lot more time. I'm home a lot more now, obviously. And I was like, what if, I do this fish podcast Beyond the Pond at the time where like I try to explain fish and it gets exhausting at times. What if I just presented fish with as little context as possible? Could I showcase fish in a way that gets to kind of the heart of this muddy, slowly evolving and resetting process that they go through with their improvisation, and could I also, use it as an outlet for like reading whatever, like a passage from a book that I'm reading right now, and try to just be a little bit more low key. So I started this back in June. It's like a monthly show. It drops really whenever I feel like it. I don't keep it on a schedule. I actually haven't put out any
Sounds so
episodes.
zen and amazing.
Yeah.
With like
I
the
only
old
record it. I
ask
only
a
record it between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. just so I like really like, so I have to have a window of time to record it, because I never want to like do it at 5 o'clock at night and like be all cheery and coming off of work or whatever. Like I want to be in kind of the zone.
Can I ask you a question about the Ruby Waves at Alpine Valley?
Sure.
My theory on it is
Josh
made
is
up
gonna
of
be so
several.
upset.
It is made up of several sections of rehearsed pieces, exercises they did like back in the 90s, but now they've incorporated them into songs, and it's built off of that as opposed to some crazy improvised 38-minute piece. I think they knew 6 minutes we're going to play the heavy metal jam. 6 minutes we're going to play the beautiful jam. Do you think that's at all feasible?
So I think I meet you halfway in the sense that that jam definitely feels like intentional. We're going to play 30 plus minutes, and when something dies down, we're going to jump into something else. And I think, to your point, I think that they had sections in their head of like, we're going to go here, but I don't know if they like planned out like we're playing the heavy metal. Like I think that they can find that at this age. Between that and like the tweezer at MSG, I prefer the tweezer at MSG because the middle section sounds like Brian Eno playing the big shit.
Right.
I agree.
Can I follow
it's
up
really
with
organic.
you about that?
Yeah, you can follow up, but I'm gonna chew on you a little bit after that.
Okay. In the movie, Between Me and Your Mind or whatever, there's a clip where Trey says Ruby Waves is going nowhere. A week after that was debuted, they played the Alpine Ruby Waves for 38 minutes.
But they always do that. They jam out.
Pitch.
That's Trey's MO though for the last 5 years is they make these songs that aren't popular really good jam vehicles, and they have some of the best jams of the tour on these shit vehicles to make you have to listen to it. They did it with all those
pinball. I hate the pinball lyric. I'm sorry, I hate the pinball lyric.
But the other thing, Kev, I wanted to kind of lean on you against a little bit was, at least my understanding of jamming, I'm obviously not Fish, but it's always based on past moments you've shared that you introduce the thought, you come away from it, it might sit there in the back of your mind, but then subconsciously in 5 years, you're on a jam and Mike hits a certain note, and then the way Trey reacts, it triggers that memory, and you go to these past experiences. That's why a band with this much experience can jam the way they can jam, is because they have those. So
is it contrived at that point though?
I don't know if it was written out. If they got a legal pad and said, "Hey, let's do that groove from whatever farmhouse in 90, whatever," then it would be contrived if they like mapped it out and like reference specific grooves. But if it's an inherent guttural thing that's brought up in the moment because of a certain way one person reacts to another musically, I think that's why I watch Fish, is for that story that they tell. Right, like they don't know it, I don't know it.
That llama reprise last night. Holy shit!
Yeah, but see, that's the question right there, Kev, for like someone like Scott Marks to get into and be like, is this like a sound check jam that they just went into? That's something they sound checked back in like the early 90s that they jammed out, and now they're kind of doing this jam in the middle of this. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that. So I'm sure there's that after 20, 30 years of doing that all the time, you're going to have familiarity with some of those, jams, or even something new. And you're like, why don't we try and fit this other jam into this song that we've done before? You know what I mean? So there's always that.
I think there's a connective piece to what you just said with the llama reprise from the dinner movie last night, the October 26, 2010 show, and the Ruby Waves, in the sense that if you listen to October 2010, they were kind of clearly saying, we're going to play this song into this song and then back into this song on the like Augusta show, the Utica show, the Manchester show. And it was almost a way for them at that point, they were playing a lot of their songs really straight. And it was almost a way for them to like figure out where are the spaces within these songs to find a path outwards again. And I almost feel like the Alpine Ruby Waves was an attempt to do that improvisationally. You can kind of think of, their jamming style in some ways peaked with like the Baker's Dozen, with these very melodic building arena rock jams. And they have played great jams after, like, since then, don't get me wrong, but they've also kind of struggled to get beyond that structure. And the Alpine Ruby Waves there's no like, we're going into A major and now we're going to drive this into a peak. Everyone's going to have their hands up. It's going to be incredible. It's more of like a challenging jam where they're like, we're going to play this section. Okay, this is coming down. Then we're going to play this section. Then this is coming down. And I felt like, the reward for that was 6 months later. With
I'm going to have to re-listen to it with that in mind. That's brilliant, Brian. Really. Thank you.
Yeah.
The 6 months later is definitely the payoff, though.
Yeah.
And I think superior. I mean, if we were the type of people that would like to rank jams against each other and create binary choices, I would have to put the MSG jam above the Alpine jam.
It would win your bracket.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it did.
That night was the highlight of the whole run because the next night fucked us.
Life has not been normal since Trey.
Hey, Brian, you want to take a call?
Yes, we'd love to take a call.
The wook line, but it's the old school one because Josh is
he's in Wyoming.
He's on a payphone. He's on a payphone in Wyoming.
Josh, can anybody hear Josh?
Not really.
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
There he is.
There he is.
Hey, do you have a? This is so dumb. Do you have a question for Brian?
I do have a question for. Well, it's not a question as much as it's a statement there. Hey, no, and so there. Hey, yeah, like, why are you talking shit about the Alpine Ruby Waves? It's the best jam Fish has ever done there. Hey, and so yeah.
I did think of you as soon as it got brought up. I was like, oh, Josh is gonna be pissed, eh? And there, so.
I was so pissed. I was so pissed. Oh no. Yeah, you can't talk shit about the Alpine Ruby Waves there. Hey, and so.
Hey,
go have some poutine. Go have some poutine.
Oh yeah, there. Hey, yeah, I like the show though so far. There, that Brian guy, he's pretty interesting. There.
Well, we're about to wrap. I was hoping you had a question for him, but.
Oh, I do. I do have a question. Oh, okay.
Oh, I put you on. Oh, hey, while you're thinking of your question, I want to let you know that.
No, I got one.
Okay, well, I'll tell you afterwards. You ask your question.
Okay. Well, all right, Brian. What's the hardest part about podcasting?
Drink.
Oh, I can't hear Brian there.
Hey, Josh, why don't you turn off or hang up and listen?
Oh, yeah, I'll hang up and listen, Brian there. Hey, good to talk to you there, even though I didn't get to hear you there. Hey, and so, but don't shit on that Alpine Ruby Waves. That's a good one.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, there.
Hardest part? Honestly, I would say every time I sit down to edit an episode, I look at this like blank canvas again, where I have all these files that I want to put together. And that moment is just like, I get like a little bit of like this inherent, I'm not going to be able to do it this time.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And then, you start working on it, you start chipping things away and it comes together. But it's that first moment where you're just like, no matter how many times you've done it, you're like, there's that unedited file of audio, there's that unedited file, there's these music tracks, and you're like, all this has to come together in a certain amount of time to sound like something that's cohesive. How are we going to do this? And that moment does it.
I like starting with a piece that I know what it's going to be. And if I can record the first minute and a half, then it becomes, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I've done the first minute and a half.
You're back in it then.
Hey, T, do you have the end set up?
Yeah, it's done. Yeah, it's ready to go. Hey, Brian, hang out for 1 second afterwards when we go to the post show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Travis. Be good.
Hey, that was for you, Kev, by the way.
I know it was. I've been watching it all night.
I know. I meant to say it earlier, but I never got the chance. Fam pointed it out in the chat, but I didn't get to do it quick enough.
I want to let Josh know, since I know he's listening. Our buddy and member of wook+, Chad, is actually heading back to Wisconsin at some point. So I'm hoping maybe in the coming weeks we could do a sit down or have you two talk to each other, Josh and Chad. I think that would be a cool bit.
I think it would be funny.
So maybe reach out to Chad. I think it's at Chatty Chew or something, and see if we could set up an interview with or meet and greet.
Boy, will that be
hot
meta.
Chad summer. It's a hot Chad
Everybody's
summer.
like, fuck you, Wook. Wow, why are you creating this complicated meta?
Ryan, thank you so much. You were just
Thank you,
you were
guys.
the smartest guy in the room, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so great. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. This was a
was
pleasure.
awesome.
You guys are so much fun to talk to. Thank you so much.
All right, T, take it away.
Good.
Right there, motherfucker. You best fucking recognize. Motherfuck it. I'm Kevin Hogan. Motherfucker.
One more. Cool. A little more frolicking though.